Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. I'm Randi Thompson, sitting in for Sam Shad. Today I'll be talking with Abney, the State Director for NFIB, and Bryan Wachter, the Senior Vice President of the Retail Association of Nevada. Coming up on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you, but we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, I am Randi Thompson, sitting in for Sam Shad, and I'm joined today by my old colleagues from lobbying days, Abney, the State Director for NFIB, National Federation of Independent Business, and Bryan Wachter, the Senior Vice President of the Retail Association. So I'm going to talk federal legislation with you guys first, and then we'll kind of get to some state stuff. So, let's talk about the federal tax cuts that are going to be expiring, and I know that's a big issue for the Retail Association as well.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's 2017, and correct me if I'm wrong. It was when Donald Trump was president. They had a panoply of tax cuts, not only to individuals but businesses, and it included R&D and a small business tax deduction and tax credit. And since Congress, they're cute when they have to create these things, and when you create a tax bill in Congress, it costs something, right? It tells you how much it's going to cost, because when you cut taxes, it costs the government, which is very sad, right? So, in order to get it under, their top line number that the Congressional Budget Office comes with, they say, oh, well, it's only going to be this for 5 years, and then it'll go back, so it doesn't cost, quote unquote, as much. So, long story long. They passed it when Donald Trump was president. They are now expiring, and so it will be key, obviously, who the next president will be as to whether those are extended, because most of them will be ending in 25 and 26, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the issue. Okay,
and Bryan, how are you looking at this for the retail side of things?
Well, I think, Trey summed up in a weird way how dysfunctional Congress is, right? So if you remember that 2017 bill, it was passed under these weird reconciliation rules as the only way they could get it through the Senate, to Trey's point, to meet that budget number. And it seems almost silly that we're sitting here having to defend pieces of legislation that are doing more to keep price increases down and help small businesses weather this particular storm, that we're even having this conversation. Congress needs to act to be able to extend these exemptions. These are going to hit the smallest businesses that we have, and it needs to be able to do so under regular order and have this debate. If this was a standalone bill, I can't imagine who would be opposed to it. And so these are the things that are going to help our smallest of businesses. And what we need most is Congress to start, I think, acting appropriately and back to regular orders so that these types of things don't happen. I mean, it's no coincidence that they envisioned small business advocates having to be back here 6-7 years later fighting for these exemptions. And it feels a little bit like we're a political football.
Yeah, I don't want to be controversial, but maybe they should look at spending a little bit and not just increasing taxes. But
that would be a good start.
Yeah.
Well, I can't emphasize enough, too, that what you guys do on a national level, your organizations of contacting Congress, but it helps when small business owners contact Congress, too. So don't be shy to not reach out to Congressman Amodei and Congressman Horsford and Congresswoman Titus and Lee and our senators to let them know how this will impact you, because that really does matter. They are listening.
it means a lot more when they hear from regular people than when they hear from me and Bryan and our counterparts in D.C. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah. So I really urge small business owners to reach out to your representatives and really emphasize this. And we were looking at they said the 90% of the current tax code will expire in 2025. This is from the Retail Association's national website, Bryan, and leaving a gap in tax revenue expected to cost somewhere between $3 trillion to $5 trillion. So this is big money, and it'll fall back on the backs of small businesses once again. So I really do encourage people to reach out.
Well, and if there's one thing that small business owners care about more than what the tax rate actually is, it's stability. Their ability to plan 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years out. And you can't do that if the tax code is changing every 2 years. So it's a mess, to Bryan's point.
Yeah. So there's another issue that hits both of your sectors is the Credit Card Competition Act. And that is, it would require only the largest credit issuing financial firms to enable a second network to route transactions on their credit cards. I own a small business, as you guys know, and we do a lot of credit cards, and that's a chunk of money, that 2 to 3, 4%. And what I'm seeing now in so many stores is that if you're going to use a credit card, we're going to charge you an extra 3%. So some businesses are trying to recover that cost already. But can you kind of explain what that Credit Card Act would do?
Yeah, and this is one of NFIB's top priorities, and it's certainly a football because it's basically small businesses against big banks. Right, and usually a business owner does not get to choose the network, the communication network, when they swipe that card that transaction goes through. This bill would allow multiple kind of options for that business owner to choose from. Because to your point, I mean, 3, 5, 6%, and then it is money that goes out the door that's not paying for any goods, not paying for labor, not paying for anything else. It's just for the privilege of their customers swiping that card. And the big banks are arguing that, well, we're going to get rid of all our rewards programs and that you just won't have any of this stuff anymore. The only thing they have to compete with those cards are the rewards programs. That's how they get customers. The big banks are not going to get rid of their rewards programs if this were to pass.
Yeah. And Bryan, how is that in the retail world when everybody uses credit cards, right?
No, it absolutely. I think Trey explained it correctly. And if you think about it this way, right, the state sales tax rate is 2%. So the state's getting 2% of all of those purchases. Visa and MasterCard are getting 4.5%. And to Trey's point, they're doing so without generating any economic activity, putting that money back in to Nevada and paying for taxes, services, and continuing to hire more people. And so you wonder where our economic dollars are going. And right now they're going to almost a government-sanctioned monopoly. And so that's why we need this bill to pass. There's some interesting movement trying to create a secondary credit market. There's more people, companies are combining, looking at merging to be able to meet this need because Visa and MasterCard have such a stranglehold in this market. And so all of those are positive signs. But again, we need Congress to act. And so if they could figure out how to do that instead of being the most dysfunctional, unproductive Congress we've had ever, there are a lot of small businesses that are waiting for help and relief from Congress, and they're not getting it in multiple fronts.
Yeah. And this is a reason why I think small businesses should be members of organizations like the Retail Association, NFIB, because you guys are making that voice out there, standing up for these guys. So thank you for what you're doing. But again, I also encourage business owners to reach out to your representatives, because here's another bill that is really going to impact your business and your bottom line. It's really kind of scary that we have to be voicing our opinions to our leaders. That really do. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years. Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
Story County is leading Nevada. Home of the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, Google, Tesla, Panasonic, and other world-leading companies. Story County provides thousands of tech, advanced manufacturing, and logistics careers for Nevadans. We're diversifying and driving Nevada's economy and generating millions in tax revenue and billions in economic activity across northern Nevada. Story County is leading Nevada's future.
Southwest Specialties has been making the homes and businesses of Nevada beautiful for more than 20 years. Their experienced designers and craftsmen create the walkways, backyards, water features, and a variety of outdoor cooking areas that add curb appeal and value to your investment. Call today or visit them at their website and see how they can make your outdoor spaces special. Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
Find your pot of gold at Carson Valley Inn during the Leprechaun Loop Progressive giveaways. Jackpot progresses $2,500 each drawing night up to $20,000. And $10,000 in grand prize giveaways guaranteed Saturday, March 30th. Get your share of Leprechaun loot at the Carson Valley Inn.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Back on Nevada Newsmakers, I'm Randi Thompson, sitting in for Sam Shad, and I'm joined today by Trey Abney of NFIB and Bryan Wachter from the Retail Association. So, Bryan, let's talk retail theft rings. You know, it's interesting that we have this state law that says you can steal essentially an iPhone. Thank you. Assemblyman Yeager said, you know, you should be able to steal an iPhone and not go to jail for that. I've always wanted to ask him the question: if your son stole an iPhone, would you be proud of him? So,
well, I'm not 100% sure that's how I would categorize his justice reform bill.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I will say the price of an iPhone means that you probably have accumulated yourself a felony. And that's why it is so difficult to figure out how to fight organized retail crime, right? It's very clear that it is not crime for need. It is not, you know, a mom who is not facing a lot of choices walks in and walks out with a package of baby formula. It is a group of people who know that they're walking in to take several cases or all of the baby formula, and then they're going to turn around and fence it so that they can fund whatever criminal activity that they're doing. And so that's what we're trying to get at. And, you know, the criminal justice reform bill that you're talking about did increase the amount before you hit that felony threshold, but it accumulates. So if you decide to case 3 joints and you do $500 at each of them, you're still going to end up with a felony. Well, what we really need to pass organized retail crime, or to help combat organized retail crime, is more prosecutorial conduct in this area. We need to make sure that those folks who are engaging in this crime know that prosecutors are going to charge them. They're not going to plead them out, and that this is a serious crime for a community that has a lot of negative effects. Price increases for one, safety for our employees and our customers is huge, as well as stopping a huge source of funding for a lot of criminal enterprises, both in Las Vegas and around the rest of the state.
So I think we're seeing it probably more in Las Vegas than we are in Reno. But yet I go to this Save Mart on McCarran, and they've closed the other entrance. So it's happening now in Reno as well. But are you seeing? It seems like the prosecutor in Las Vegas is at least taking this a little more seriously and it is prosecuting stuff. But we're still seeing an escalation in crime in Vegas, aren't we?
Well, I would be careful to say that we're, you know, seeing a huge escalation. This has been an ongoing problem since well before the pandemic. I think what we're seeing is that these syndicates and these crime groups are getting more sophisticated. They're growing as our loss prevention and our judicial system are growing to keep up. They are constantly evolving how they're going about getting access to products, services, and things like that. So this has been an ongoing problem, and we are very happy down in Clark County that the DA seems to be putting a specific spotlight on these crimes. And we think that is what's ultimately going to lead to the decrease. It's very easy for folks to think that there's no repercussions for this. Our stores have made sure that our employees know that stopping that crime is not their responsibility. We don't want them hurt. We don't want them put in those positions. The criminals know that. And so it's a game of what are the repercussions for stealing if we're not willing to put our employees on the line and our other customers in an unsafe position. And so that's where we really need the criminal justice system to step up and put those consequences into action.
So do you see, to Trey here, do you see the legislature dealing with this issue next session?
Well, and they did, to give Bryan credit, and the Retail Association members should know, Bryan and the Retail Association led the charge and worked with Attorney General Ford just this last session to give the Attorney General more tools in this area, and not just the DAs, but to kind of expand that scope and give him more tools and potentially access to more funding for those tools. So it was dealt with last session. I'm sure there will be something else this session. Like these issues, they always come back. There are not a lot of new ideas in Carson City usually. So, but again, Bryan and the Retail Association led the charge on that. So they did a great job.
What I appreciate, and we originally had asked for $1 million to go to the Attorney General's office to increase their ability to prosecute these cases in case the local jurisdictions need help, assistance, or don't have the manpower to do that. Chairwoman Miller of the Assembly Committee on Judiciary slashed that funding request to a little less than $200,000. And so we do plan on coming back, showing why it's important, but asking for that initial request that we had made last session. We plan to come back and ask for it again.
Well, there's so much attention around retail theft these days, at least from some media. You probably saw on Super Bowl when Tim Cook was down in Vegas for the Super Bowl and he visited the Summerlin Apple store. And then that afternoon, a guy came in and stole from that Apple store, and that made national news. So, at least we're elevating this issue. But it's like, why aren't we dealing with this more forcibly at legislatures? And then, so they should be discussing taking away this. I mean, what happened to 3 strikes and you're out? I mean, that's no longer around either. The soft on crime has really taken a position of hurting every business.
But I think it's possible to restore or to kind of reform how we approach criminal justice, what we're doing to rehabilitate, what programs are working, kind of looking at that root cause of crime. I think that's a worthy endeavor, while at the same time making sure that those crimes that we are viewing as egregious to society are not plead out and are shown some interest in. I mean, for your example, though, it takes the CEO of a company being in town for a sporting event who happens to do a store tour for that to make national news. Had Tim Cook not been at that Summerlin Apple store that morning, it's unlikely that the theft that afternoon, which was probably completely unrelated, would have been something that we're talking about today. And so I think there's still some room to discuss it, in knowing that this is happening very small times over a lot of times every single day in your neighborhood stores.
Well, and legislators have to balance too. They have to fund the prisons here. And so that's the issue. Do we drive everybody into prison where they're not being rehabilitated and maybe come out even worse, right? Or do we figure out a different deal? So they're in a tough spot as they figure out a limited state budget to handle all that too.
Yeah,
so.
Very true, very true. Well, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back after this.
Unlock the loop this March at Tamarack Casino. Cash and free play giveaways all month, including a progressive jackpot giveaway up to $20,000 and a guaranteed $20,000 cash winner in the Golden Ticket Finale. Your good times are at Tamarack Casino.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com. Big R in Sparks is located on Bering Boulevard next to Smith's and across from Reed High School. It's a 50,000 square foot clothing store and a whole lot more. And for these wintry days, jackets, hoodies, flannel shirts, insulated bib overalls, and merino wool socks. Plus, Big R still has shovels and snow melt. You need it, they've got it. Big R. Hardware, clothing, and a whole lot more.
Save money and take transit. Did you know you can ride the bus all day for less than what it would cost you for a gallon of gas? Plan your trip now by going to rtcwashoe.com.
7 at 7 is a newscast built for your smartphone. It's a 7-minute newscast available every weekday at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. at lvrj.com. We don't waste your time, and we give you the day's top stories.
We at the RJ have noticed some similarities between us and a certain BTS character, RJ.
Plus the latest in Las Vegas business, weather, health, and entertainment news. 7 at 7 streaming now on your smartphone.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Back on Nevada Newsmakers, I'm Randi Thompson, sitting in for Sam Shad, and I'm joined by Trey Abney of NFIB and Bryan Wachter of Retail Association. I probably just bully crucified your guys' last names because you have such different last names. It's not Wachter, it's Wachter. It's not Abney, it's Abney. Sorry. Hey, Bryan, let's talk about an issue that's happening more in Vegas, but it is kind of applies to Reno too. Is Kroger and Albertsons are trying to merge to essentially become a bigger grocery store so they can compete with Walmarts and Amazons and Targets and everybody else that sells groceries. But the FTC is actually suing their attempt to the merger. And one of the articles I read is that it's the job of the FTC to protect the consumer, not union workers, because this does seem to be kind of driven by the unions who are opposing this. How are you guys kind of seeing this merger as, just in the retail spectrum overall?
Well, I think if the overall goal is to lower prices, then this merger is something that is very good for consumers. You have some very large but smaller players in the space trying to come together to be able to reach the same efficiencies that the larger stores have and are able to compete with. And it goes back to how a lot of retailers are trying to fight these price increases from a lot of these vendors. Is the larger shelf space you have, the more power you have to tell a vendor, I'm not paying your price increase of X%. And you've seen the larger stores, Walmart, use that ability and that market share to be able to force vendors to lower their prices or to find other ways that they can meet their profitability standards without passing them on to Walmart customers. And you can see other larger stores who have that market share making that same push, and it's lowering prices. And I think what Albertsons and Kroger are looking to do is say, we want to be able to compete more fully at that level. And that's good for consumers. We're going to lower prices. It's odd to me, especially that the Attorney General in Nevada has decided to kind of take this up. You have what are some of our larger grocery stores who are non-union, and you have these two stores which are union. And are looking to continue that union contract going forward into this much larger grocery store footprint. And so it's weird that our Democratic Attorney General will be standing in the way of lowering prices and increasing union footholds in the grocery market.
Yeah, I find ironic too that they're actually trying to combine forces to protect from closing stores and to protect those jobs too.
I think some of those consequences are going to be felt, should the FTC prevail, you are going to continue to really limit who can provide the lowest prices in retail groceries to consumers. And so it seems like a weird club you'd want to keep companies out of instead of trying to put as many companies into that category as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, Trey, the governor vetoed 75 bills last session.
The most of any governor in one session.
Yeah, and we know that many of those bills will come back next session. I've been told probably about 40 of them will be back. And there's some rent control. There's providing pregnant women who are illegal immigrants medical care. There's a lot of bills here that would ratchet up the state spending. Unless we have the 2/3 rule here is that if the Democrats rule 2/3 of both houses, all those bills will be back. So I don't know. Do people understand how important it is that we have a balanced House? I'm not saying, one party rule is what happened in California, and look where they are.
I don't think normal, regular people understand, right? But I think the business community and those of us in that legislative bubble completely understand. And just for your viewers' edification, if the Democrats have 2/3 majority in the Assembly and in the Senate, they can do two things. They can raise taxes without the governor even needing to do anything, and they can override his vetoes.
Yep.
So if that is the case, if you have Democrats holding 2/3 in both chambers, a lot of those bills could come back, they could pass, and then he could veto, and they could do whatever they want. It would make the governor irrelevant. We are not a 2/3 Democratic state. You've seen the writing on the wall here. We are very purple. Independents are starting to outnumber both Republicans and Democrats, both statewide and in Washoe and in Clark County. So it's out of whack anyway, and good for them. The Democrats were in power and had a Democrat governor when they redrew the lines. Republicans would have done the same thing if they had been in that situation. So I mean, that's what political parties do, is try to maintain their stranglehold on power. On power, but it is not. I don't think it's in anybody's best interest to have Governor Lombardo be irrelevant. You need that balance. You need that backstop. To some of the extremes, I'll just say, that the legislature goes to sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your guys' time today. I'm sure we'll have you back again. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate it. And we'll be back right after this.
Imagine a magical garden that feeds Carson City's hungry and homeless, teaches our high school students agriculture, creates hanging floral displays to beautify downtown, and yet charges nothing. It's not magic. It's the Greenhouse Project. It's real, it's growing, and it needs your help. Go online to carsоncitygreenhouse.org so together we can grow it forward.
For 50 years, Nevada Heating has been keeping people comfortable in their homes. At Nevada Heating, call the Do It Right guys and get the heat back on today. Call us today and we'll fix it today. That's the Nevada Heating way. Why freeze for days on end when Nevada Heating can get your furnace fixed today? Call us today and we'll fix it today at 323-5585 or schedule us on our website at nevadaheating.com.
Snorkel personnel lifts are engineered beyond the industry norm to an uncommon level of safety and durability, and with an eye towards sustainability. They're also designed to be simple to operate and maintain. Snorkel, always at the cutting edge of progress.
Modern boutique Ahern Hotel and Event Center sits at the heart of the Las Vegas Strip. 2 floors of meeting and event space are ideal for groups and conventions. Stay in one of 200 luxurious rooms and suites. Brand your event throughout the property. Flexible event spaces make for easy planning and personalization. Take over the entire hotel with a full buyout option.
Calamity. It lurks around every corner. Or not. That's why UMC Quick Care is around every corner, with locations around the valley. UMC Quick Care, for all your small calamities.
Thank you for listening and watching. You can visit us anytime at NevadaNewsmakers.com. Thanks again.